Motion controls have been with gaming far longer than many may realize, or perhaps have forgotten, or maybe choose to forget. I, for one, have been an advocate for such controls for as long as I can remember. If you're as old as I am, then you should be used to the way that controls in video games change all the time, because that's exactly what's happened ever since the first consoles. Controllers pretty much started off with a single control stick and a single button. Then they evolved to remove those sticks, add more precise directional controls, additional buttons, analog sticks, visual and interactive screens, pointer controls, full body motion, etc. The controllers we mostly use today would not exist if it wasn't for those who pushed for change and refused to sit still, with what is considered the norm today by a large number of players. But what I want to touch upon is what's in the title of this video. For me, I struggle when I see or hear people so easily brushing off different forms of input when it comes to video games. I especially struggle with those gamers who brush off motion controls today as gimmicks. And we all know the word gimmick is used in a negative way these days. For the most part, I struggle to understand gamers who are of a similar age to me or have a good understanding of the industry. I guess I just struggle to understand why they reject motion controls or even new inputs. Do you remember the days when you'd walk into an arcade and dream about having those experiences on a home console? I do, I really do. It wasn't just about the graphics those arcade games had, but it was also about the experience, an experience that was greatly heightened by the control input used in many, many arcade machines. Arcade gaming was the pinnacle of gaming in most aspects, and in some ways, the very essence of gaming, and it was the ambition to be achieved on home consoles in pretty much all aspects, which is why consoles later got the abundance of peripherals, add-ons and software related to those experiences. People loved those experiences and still do in a way, even though the arcade scene has essentially died in many countries around the world. So once again, this is where I struggle with those who reject motion controls even when they are used in a genre that arguably works best with what's considered the standard control setup today. And that's two analog sticks, one used to move, the other used for the camera, then the wealth of buttons used for other actions. Motion controls have always been a part of gaming, whether you like it or not, and they have created many of the experiences that we have today, as well as created some of the most enjoyable and unique games the industry has ever seen. Or even if they didn't create them, they elevated them to higher levels beyond what the standard controller input could do. Light gun games from the arcades and early home consoles like Virtual Cop, Time Crisis, Duck Hunt, House of the Dead, and Aliens Extermination Arcades, just to name a few of those great titles, were all motion controls, right? You had to physically move and point the gun where you needed to shoot, as well as point the gun off screen to reload. Or in Time Crisis, you had to step on the pedal as well. If anyone says to me that using any other form of control to play that style of game is better, then I'd have to completely disagree. What about racing games in the arcades? Whether using steering wheels or sitting on bikes that lean from left to right, they were motion controls. Outrun, Sega Rally, Daytona, Ridge Racer, Hang On, Mannix TT, GTI Club. Remember that game with the handbrake? That game was awesome. What you have to remember is that all these games started off in the arcades using some form of motion control. And I say this is motion control because you have to physically twist the steering wheel around constantly, as well as use foot pedals for braking and stopping if they were included. I'm not saying that using other forms of control are wrong. Far from it. Of course, some people prefer to use other forms of control, but then this is the whole point, I suppose. People like different things. There is a market for those people who like different things. I'm one of those people who would prefer to use another form of control if the option is available for certain genres. And of course we could debate all day about which is better, But then that's personal preference and opinion, something we should all retain. I wonder how many people who beg for photorealistic graphics and lifelike handling mechanics in games like Gran Turismo, Forza Motorsports, and Project Cars as examples. I wonder how many of those people actually buy a steering wheel peripheral to play the games, because surely that would make more sense over playing it with analog sticks. Then you have the dancing and rhythm games, because once again they all started off using motion controls, whether that was you physically having to jump on a dance mat for the full experience in Dance Dance Revolution, shaking some maracas in Samba de Amigo, banging bongos in Donkey Konga, strumming a guitar and smashing drums in Rock Band and Guitar Hero, or even swiping in multiple directions on a touchscreen to games like Rhythm Heaven or Elite Beat Agents as examples. And yes, I consider touchscreens as a form of motion control, because once again you have to physically detach your hand from whatever device you are holding and move it in multiple directions on the screen, at least on dedicated gaming hardware. All these experiences required movement beyond what is considered a standard control input today. There are, of course, some great rhythm games that don't use motion control, like Bib Ribbon on the PlayStation 1, Space Channel 5 on the Dreamcast, Buster Groove, that was on the PlayStation 1, etc. But even they, could be used with motion controls as an option, perhaps with the dance mat. At least the option was there for those who preferred it. And if you think about it, motion controls are a fundamental part of PC gaming too, and that's due to using a mouse as a form of control, which many still state is the best form of control for the popular first-person shooter genre, because at the end of the day, you have to physically move that mouse around a mouse mat, subtly or not. Then you could go even deeper into what are arguably the superior benefits of using a mouse when playing real-time strategy games, as an example. If you didn't use a mouse for such genres, when they finally appeared on consoles, and you were stuck with using a D-pad or an analog stick, did you not wish for a faster, more precise input? And if you remember, those consoles had, those consoles back in the day, they had mice as additional peripherals for such games. As we know, Nintendo brought back motion controls to the forefront of gaming with the Nintendo Wii and DS family, and we saw a revival of many genres that, because of what was considered more normal controls, they were pushed aside. A wealth of gamers forced to forget about such genres because of, once again, what was being pushed as the norm. Without motion controls, Metroid Prime 3 would have just been another Prime game. Still fantastic, but nowhere near as unique or game-changing. Without motion controls, Wii Sports, one of the biggest selling games ever made, and industry-changing games ever made, would not exist. And I say industry-changing because look at what the Wii and the DS done to the gaming landscape at the time. It turned it on its head, causing Nintendo's competitors to dribble out their feeble attempts to better it and try to cash in on its success. And I call them feeble, not because of the devices, not because of the PlayStation Move or the Kinect camera. These devices had lots of potential, but because of the support that was, not given to them. To hate on motion controls, you must have hated everything about the Wii, which is quite tragic. I feel, it means you potentially didn't like the arguably superior control schemes it brought to games like Resident Evil 4, Okami, Pikmin, Tiger Woods, and many other sports games, point-and-click adventures, select puzzle games, the precise pointer controls for accessing menus, moving objects, liking games, as we mentioned, as well as the unique and exclusive games the Wii had that no other system had. Even genres like the first-person shooter, where many would contest that the pointer controls in games like Metroid Prime 3, Red Steel 2, and Call of Duty proved too good for them to go back to analog sticks. They even worked great. Motion controls even work great in games like Mario Galaxy, Silent Hill, Sin and Punishment, No More Heroes, The Last Story, Trauma Center series, Zack and Wiki, Excite Truck, etc., etc. All these games are in different genres, and motion controls really add to their enjoyment and also create fun, unique gameplay. And this is another reason why I'm utterly in love with the Nintendo Switch. As a console, it offers developers the choice to create pretty much whatever types of games they like, with whatever type of control scheme they like, knowing that no matter what, every single person who owns a Switch can play their game straight out of the box with their desired control scheme, analog sticks, D-pad, motion controls, pointer controls, touchscreen, whatever. The Switch doesn't, the Switch doesn't even have to use the TV. It's a handheld as well. Some developers might choose to treat it as so, allowing people to play it using only touch controls. The point is, the option is there. The great thing about motion controls is that they can be subtle or they can be over the top. They can make the mundane feel more intuitive and fun, and they can create genres as well as enhance genres in ways that would not be possible with another form of input. This video was not designed to push aside other forms of controls, not at all, because everything has its place, but it was a video designed to try and highlight the many genres that were formed of motion controls and in many ways are still superior with them, or can only continue to evolve with them. Not every game works better with motion controls, of course, but as a gamer, I struggle to understand those who so quickly knock them off completely, or even refuse to try something different, even if afterwards they still didn't like it. I could rest easy then as a gamer knowing that they've at least tried, and their preferences then can stay, wherever they like, until the next time motion controls try to change an established genre, which I'll try to get them to try it again. I personally begged for the option of motion controls in many games, using them in The Witcher 3, for many things like the crossbow, an item I barely used because the normal controls were so cumbersome. I played this on the PlayStation 4. I would have loved them in Doom, the recent Doom, which I foolishly played on consoles, as I would have much preferred a mouse or pointer controls for that fast-paced action. Pointer controls would have been perfect for me in games like Gears of War, which for me is crying for some innovation. Or what about Dead Space? A game series that has you targeting specific body parts. Would that not work better with pointer controls? Dead Space Extraction on the Wii showed how fun that could be. And I'm gutted, really gutted that the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild doesn't support any motion controls after what I consider to be very intuitive and fun controls in Skyward Sword. Perhaps this will change, but at the moment I don't think it does. Anyway, this discussion has dragged on a bit longer than I wanted it to, but as always, what are your thoughts? Do you hate motion controls in all their forms? Hate them only in certain genres? Have you even tried them at all in genres that you prefer more common controls? Or are you like me, someone who loves motion controls in all their forms, prefers playing some games with them and some games without them? As always, thanks for watching, and I look forward to your likes and dislikes in the comment section below. Peace.